Overthinking. This process within your brain that makes you feel like you're going insane. You seem to go through these loop cycles of thoughts where you think about a situation so much to the point where it doesn't even make sense anymore. You feel like the world is crumbling around you as you think about things no one else around you is thinking about. Your friends call you insane. Your friends think that you're absolutely nuts. You have to step away from situations at times, general social events, just to be able to get control of the brain that overthinks absolutely everything. This somersault impulse of the brain is most commonly caused by anxiety, but it can be caused by many things. And there's many hundreds and thousands of millions of people who suffer from this. So today, I thought to kick off 2020 while we're all stuck at home overthinking our brains out, that I would cover how to cope and manage and settle them overthinking thoughts. So you have the best chance of having full control over your brain to its best capabilities. What's up, guys? Welcome to the Focus Future channel. I hope you guys are all having an amazing day. I hope you're all well, safe, and coping through these extraordinary times that we're all going through. Today, I thought I'd bring you a video that would help you with lockdown. Now, because we're all stuck at home, having nothing to do with our lives, doing more housework than we ever thought we would, I thought I'd bring you a video about overthinking, because I feel like as we have nothing to do, a lot of us are overthinking quite a lot recently, and our anxiety levels are probably through the roof. So, if you're interested in the entire concept of overthinking and how to manage it and how to cope with it, please stay tuned. If not, please use the top link in the description to check out a video that teaches you a bit more about me. If you're new to the channel, make sure you are subscribing for regular mental health advice and support with daily life. But apart from that, let's jump into this video and learn how to cope and manage our overthinking thoughts. So before we get into the tips, let's just go over some of the basics of overthinking, some of the effects it has, what it can do to people's lives, and all this good stuff. Because I feel like if you're watching this and you've never had to go through it, it's going to be very difficult to understand. Now, we all worry. We all worry about something. There's always one thing in our head, no matter what time of the day it is, that's bothering us. We're thinking about the next time we have to go to work and the amount of backluggage that we're going to get from that. We're thinking about our relationships or our marriages and how they might be not going so great as we thought. We might be an excited human being about an event that's coming up. Or we might be a social nervous butterfly that's worried because they've got to go and meet a group of people they've never met before. Whatever it is, there's always something worrying you. But the thing is, worry is extremely different to overthinking. There's a very thin line, I say thin, it's probably quite thick, between worrying and overthinking. Let's go through this. Now, the most simplest way to explain the differences is worrying is not as bad as overthinking. I would say that overthinking is probably 10 times worse than worry. So imagine that you're worried about something and times that worry by 10, and then you've got what overthinking is. You know, when you worry, you might think of the simplistics of what it's going to do to you. When you overthink a situation, you literally start to plan for the worst possible outcomes of the situation. You start to sum up every single little thing that could happen, from someone's hand moving the wrong way, to you being trapped in the room and never being able to get out, to the military storming through the roof and trying to kill you. All these very unnecessary thoughts start to come into your head when you overthink. But normally they don't come into your head when you worry. So that's the difference. If you times your worry by 10 and you get all them symptoms I've just explained, you probably suffer from overthinking. So what does this cause? How does overthinking damage your life? What does it do to you? How does it affect you? Now, I think the most common thing that everyone with overthinking will agree with is it's tiring. It's exhausting. It really sucks the energy out of you. When you go through a day where your overthinking is extremely bad, and normally it's related to anxiety, you will realise that you are much more tired than you was the day before when maybe your overthinking wasn't as bad. That's the first big thing. Second thing is you take things out of context all the time. Your body might be talking about something really basic, really calm, really relaxed, and suddenly you start making a big deal out of it. Or something that's slightly odd or not right happens, everyone's able to deal with it quite well, and then you pop into the scene and make a big deal out of it, and suddenly half of the fire service are down there, half of the police service, half of the ambulance service, and it's like a full-scale mass crisis. That's the effects it has, the three main ones. But more importantly, it causes you to question yourself a hell of a lot. You don't just sit there and think about something once, twice, or three times. You sit there and think about it all night until you haven't got any sleep, which is dangerous for your health. It causes a lot of people to have a lack of sleep, increased chance of them not being able to stay focused on a task for very long. And most importantly, it destroys relationships very quickly. No one wants to be dating a mass overthinker who can't control their own thoughts. I've been there myself. I've had girlfriends and people I've dated who I've had to dump or get rid of or kick out of my life, not because I don't necessarily like them or I think they're horrible or, the relationship wasn't working normally, but to protect them from what I can see happening of an overthinking pattern of thoughts. It's a hard decision to make. But for the people who have dated me, that is, and I've got rid of you for that reason, I was trying to keep you safe. Really annoying, and that's one reason, big reason, why I hate overthinking. And these effects were exactly what I went through. It's not so much now because I've used the tips that I'm about to tell you to manage it. I've been to therapy, I've spoke to so many people about this, it's unbelievable. But before I did all of that, my overthinking was literally crippling my life, and getting control of anything that I thought about was very difficult. So let me take you through some tips. I think there's about 5 tips I've got for you. Now, these tips, all of them I've tried at some point and they've worked for me. I've looked up research on this. I've watched YouTube videos of scientists and psychologists going through this. So I at least know that to 60% of you, these tips will work if used effectively. But I can't promise you that to every individual out there that this is going to cure your overthinking, because it won't. And anyway, to anyone, you can't really cure overthinking. All you can do is get it to a level where it's manageable, and that's what we're trying to do here. So the first tip is distraction. Now, distraction. You're probably thinking to yourself, and I actually wrote this in a blog post that I just wrote for overthinking. That will be linked on my website below. It's probably like, oh, well, I've always been told that. Every therapist I've been to has always told me to try and distract myself, try and find hobbies, try and find an outlet, as would be said. And you're probably like, nah, that didn't work. I've tried that a million times and it doesn't work. The reason it probably didn't work is because you wasn't doing it in the right way. Now, when a therapist tells you to distract yourself, to get out of this cycle of thoughts, they say it to you like it's the most simplest thing on planet Earth. Like you'll literally go home, play a game, and suddenly all your overthinking will just go away. I can tell you now from personal experience that that is not the case. It takes hard work, effort, and pure energy to be able to indulge in an activity so much to the point where your overthinking comes to a manageable level. Trust me, it's difficult. The way you have to do it is doing it gradually. You have to learn how to play a game or tidy a room or do something that you enjoy more like, because I don't think anyone enjoys tidying their room. Well, some people do. It's quite therapeutic if you do it in the right way. You have to do it slowly. when you feel like you're overthinking a bit too much, instead of just sitting there and letting them overthinking thoughts overwhelm you, you need to be like to yourself, you need to stop a minute and be like, right, am I going to let myself sit on my bed and continue thinking about whatever I'm thinking about? Or am I going to be like, right, brain, let's stop a minute. Okay, what are we thinking about? Alright, that's the situation. Come up with some form of general solution to whatever you're thinking about, or be like to your brain, okay, I'll think about that later. And then what you've got to do, once you've answered to your own brain, you've gave your brain some form of solution or explanation to what you're thinking about, you go straight into distraction. You start tidying your room. You start playing a game. You start going out with your mates. You do something that's going to take your mind off it. Now, I don't just mean to do that activity to some basic level. Don't start casually like, oh, I've got to tidy my room, man. It's too much effort. I mean proper, like, set a goal to yourself of what you want to do during that activity and being like, I am going to do whatever it takes to get that activity done, no matter what it is. If it's tidying your room, you're going to be like to yourself, right, okay, I'm going to make this room look like some professional cleaner just come in here and gave it a full dust over. That's the type of focus I mean. Now, you're probably wondering, why does it have to be so intensive? That's because your overthinking is going to be intensive. And if you don't overtopple it, it's never going to even lower to the slightest bit. The sad thing of overthinking is overthinking thoughts are able to topple over activities that you normally do. They're able to remain there even when you're trying to do something. So if you really want to get rid of it through distraction, you're going to have to do something very intensely. And we go back to setting goals. Sit down with yourself when you're about to overthink and be like, right, okay, no, that thought can be pushed to the side a minute. What is my objective right now? What do I need to be doing in this present moment? If you do it well and you really focus on an activity, you will see results, but you have to work on it extremely hard. Second is talk to people. I preferably think you should talk to a therapist, but you don't have to. Talking to people is something that a lot of people find very difficult, and a lot of people are like, nah, I talk to people, they don't give me good advice, they talk to me about a load of rubbish, or I feel anxious when I'm about to do it, or they don't understand me. And I get all these thoughts. As a kid, I had all of that. There was a point in my life where I was like, should I just start hiding everything from everyone because no one seems to get it? You have to kick yourself up the backside and be like, right, realistically, right, there's about 7 billion something people on planet Earth. What is the chances that not one of them people will understand me or have been through a similar situation? I can tell you that is wrong now because I bet you one of you has been through what I have been through in my life. At least one of you who's watching this. If you want to know what I've been through, I will link videos down below. You've got to remind yourself of that. And then you've got to be like, right, okay, who around me do I feel like I can benefit from talking to? If there's someone out there, try that. If that don't work, my biggest piece of advice would be reach out to a professional. Now, I know professionals are these big, scary people who sometimes are very intimidating, but when you find one that's just right for you, which can take a little while, don't get me wrong, you really start to realise they are able to pick your brain apart like no one else. The job of a therapist in an overthinking scenario is to reset you on a right thinking path. You talk to your therapist about, your daily life, what happened in your past, how you was, what happened, what you think about regularly, why you overthink, if you've managed to identify that. If you haven't, they'll help you identify that. And when you talk about it, they'll let you say things, they'll let you talk, but afterwards, they'll start questioning you. They'll ask you questions about, okay, so why do you think of it in that way? Can't you think of it in this way? Or why is this? Or how can that be different? Why do you think that person's going to do this? And what they're trying to do is break down them overthinking thoughts. They want you to realise that things can be a tiny bit simpler than they was when you were overthinking. And it took me about 30 counselling sessions to even get to a point where I realised that, oh wait, yeah, my brain is way more complex than actual life itself. But after a certain amount of sessions, you can have as many as you want because your therapist will understand that it's quite a long process, you will start to realize that you're able to control it. And all the things that you think about are not as complicated as before. The next one, and this is a really important one that I don't follow enough, is meditate. Meditate, meditate, meditate. It's the easiest way to correct the chemicals in your brain to try and cure the inner psychology of overthinking. If you want to learn how to meditate properly, please check out the videos down below. And the next one is a scheme that I have in place for this brand that I teach people called Relax, Recap, and Plan. I made this scheme for people in stressful situations, for people to be able to deal with crises in their life. For example, if they saw a car crash in the middle of the street. But this will also work in anxiety situations. If you want to learn more about that, please go to my link in my description where I go through it and talk to you about it. And the biggest tip out of all of this, which is another one that a therapist will be able to help you with, is identify your triggers. Identify when overthinking is at its peak. Trust me, it helps. So, identifying when overthinking at its peak is probably difficult for a lot of you. I understand, I've been there myself. But when you're able to do it effectively, you learn that you can take control of your brain. You can stop for a minute and be like, right, brain, what's going on, man? Like, seriously, it's not that big of a deal. And once you start to tell your brain these things, you start to, enforce your brain to think a certain way rather than the way it wants to think, you start to realize that you have control. And the chances are, even that sense of control is going to make you feel a tiny bit better. So, people, I encourage you to go away, and over the next, it's probably going to take you a couple of years, to be honest, follow these tips. At first, probably for the first month, they're not going to work. It's going to take a very long time to even just get in the routine of being able to use them effectively. But after a little while, you will realize that gradually, these so big overthinking thoughts are suddenly not so big anymore, and your life starts to become a little more simpler. So guys, if these tips help, please leave a comment down below of how they helped, what you did, if you like the idea of what I'm giving you, and most importantly, subscribe for more mental health advice. But apart from that, I hope you enjoyed this video, I hope you found it helpful, and I will catch all you dudes next time. Bye bye.